The big international story continues to be Sri Lanka, and now the Sri Lankan army chief has asked the public support to maintain peace in the island nation after the president was changed from his residence and forced to announce his resignation. The army chief today issued a statement saying that an opportunity has arisen to resolve the current crisis in a peaceful manner. He has requested Sri Lankans to support the armed forces and the police to ensure that peace is maintained in the country. The International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, has said that it is closely monitoring the ongoing developments in the cash-starved country and hopes that the political crisis will be resolved soon to allow for the resumption of dialogue on IMF-supported programs. The United States has urged Sri Lanka's politicians to come forward and work quickly to achieve long-term solutions to address the people's discontent. The country criticized Saturday's violence but also warned Sri Lankan forces over any attacks on protesters and journalists. Thousands of protesters on Saturday barged into the official residence of the embattled President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, demanding his resignation. The home of the Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was also set on fire, even after he had made an offer to quit. President Rajapaksa's current whereabouts remain unknown. The Prime Minister has resigned. The President says he will resign on the 13th of July. Let's go across to my colleague Shrija, who's been monitoring all of these developments. So Shrija, what's next now and what's the situation on the ground?
Well, currently Sri Lanka is in limbo because it does not really have a head as far as, the last night's decision is concerned. This is with respect to what the Speaker had informed, saying that Gotabaya Rajapaksa will resign on the 13th of July. Now, it's going to be very crucial for the next few days. We also hear that the party leaders will meet once again, will get assurances from Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, because he had just, offered to resign from his post. But if that's going to happen or not is something we have to wait and watch out for. But what really transpired late last night, what we did see was after where Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe had offered to resign from his position, the next minute what we did witness was his private residence was brought down by some of the protesters. Now that's been investigated. It's also been handed over to the CID, is what we are getting to hear from our sources in Sri Lanka. And that apart, as far as what really, what's the situation, ground situation today, of course, the protests have simmered down. The number of protesters out there on the streets have come down, because what we saw yesterday was unprecedented. But however, today again, the protesters continue to occupy the presidential palace. What we did see since morning was there were several videos that were doing the rounds on social media. There was one particular video which we did, talk about, that some of the protesters had discovered a secret bunker inside the presidential palace. On the other hand, we also saw how protesters were counting cash, which it's allegedly also told handed over to the police. So these were certain things, the videos that were doing the rounds from the presidential palace. But just about a few minutes ago, we also saw where several of the protesters in the conference room, they were trying to address, especially the media, trying to tell the media that especially the anti-government protesters, are not to be held responsible, because they are not responsible for the attack and the, bringing down Ranil Wickremesinghe's private residence. So they were clearly trying to clarify that it is not them, and they just did this from the conference room, the hall of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. So as far as what really is the situation in the next few days, that is when NDTV spoke to a few protesters and few common man out there on the ground, what they did tell us was they don't believe the words of the Speaker, because they want to see when actually Gotabaya Rajapaksa resigns on the 13th. If that's going to happen or not is something we have to wait and watch out for. But for now, we see the constitutional crisis continue at the moment. And also, as far as the all-party leaders are concerned, they've arrived at a consensus saying that the Speaker will be the acting president, but won't be for long. That's going to be just for a matter of 3 to 4 days until a new president is elected.